Now let's get into college football though, because we have games on Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday. The Big Ten is finally back, and we actually even have a ranked matchup on Friday.
Yeah, actually, one of the biggest games of last season, Illinois upset Wisconsin. I remember that was the first time I noticed Lovey Smith had that huge gray beard. There were a few shocking things on that day, Illinois winning and Lovey's beard, but I'm actually going to find myself on Wisconsin in this one, minus 19 in Oregon, minus 18 and a half in New Jersey at minus 110. So I'm going to save myself that little half point there, Higgins, and take it in New Jersey where I'm at. And for this game specifically, taking the revenge angle. These Wisconsin players are not going to be very happy about what happened last year, and Illinois does not yet have the talent to match Wisconsin. So, a motivated Wisconsin team that's been thinking about that loss for a full year now and pretty much all off season since they've announced they're coming back. They've been thinking about this game. I'm taking Wisconsin minus 19 on Friday night.
19 is a big spread for a team that got upset by Illinois last year, but I'm sure there's plenty of fuel on that fire to redeem themselves. Just a quick note, Brett. Oregon doesn't offer college football lines, so the lines that I had previously written down were just a different sports book in New Jersey for you. So you
Oh,
found better value, but it was still a New Jersey sports book.
whoops.
Let's move on to Saturday, though, as, like you said, the Big Ten with the Illinois Wisconsin, that's a big matchup. Now, we have some other big matchups Nebraska at number 5, Ohio State. We have other matchups like Penn State versus Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota. There are a lot of Big Ten teams that were given top 25 rankings, Brett, and considering how much we've gotten to see these other teams play and the unknowns with the Big Ten here, I don't know how deserved it is to see like 5 names or so, I believe it is, from the Big Ten in the top 25 without having played a game yet.
Eh, I don't know. I mean, I think Ohio State's a top five team. Um,
I
but
think that, but I mean, the Minnesota game, Minnesota's 21, Michigan's 18. Do they really deserve those spots compared to maybe some mid majors that have actually proved themselves with some quality games or some ACC or SEC teams that have done well? I don't know. I think there's teams that have clearly shown who they are so far compared to unknowns, and you're just giving the unknowns the benefit of the doubt, which it's a weird season already. I just don't like it. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
yeah, I mean, I guess it comes down to uh expectations too. Like preseason polls don't matter, but it's what we base the entire season off of. Um I don't know. It's one of those weird things where I'm not sure what to do. I guess the one that sticks out the most for me, that I would agree with what you're saying is Penn State comes in at number 8, and they're going to be without their top running back and their top defensive player and probably player in general, Micah Parsons. No Journey Brown, no Micah Parsons, number 8 in the country. Probably going to knock him down a few pegs, to be honest, Higgins. I don't think this is the same Penn State team we thought maybe back in January we'd see.
Well, I think I think you're right. I think Penn State's probably going to fall from that number 8 spot. I also agree with you in the Ohio State's probably appropriately ranked at 5 because I wouldn't be surprised if they're top 3 at the end of the season like they're expected to be. I don't think they deserve to be top 3 without having played a game when there are other teams that have, but that's where they would be likely to see. So I think giving them 5 is appropriate, but Penn State 8, Michigan 18. I don't know. Some of these just feel a little weird. Even the Wisconsin being ranked at 14 like this. I don't know. I just don't like it. But let's get into our ACC picks because you and I made a few picks on the data that we already have seen, the teams we have already seen go out and play. And this North Carolina State versus North Carolina game is intriguing to me because last week North Carolina State played Duke. It was a close one, 31-20. whereas UNC lost in a surprising game against Florida State. So I'm going to take North Carolina State plus 15 in this one because it's another in-state rivalry. North Carolina State's played pretty well. They're both 4-1, but North Carolina State's 4-1 against the spread, and UNC's only 2-2. So I'm taking the team that is covered more often.
Yeah, you know, piggybacking off that FSU UNC game, Higgins,
Mhm.
I'm actually just straight up betting against FSU this week. I'm actually taking Louisville minus 3.5 at FSU. And my reasoning is this is a letdown spot for FSU. They had no business beating North Carolina last week, and they came out and played their best game of the season. We've seen FSU play three different quarterbacks. Their coach has battled COVID. They've had, their defensive tackle opt out, opt back in. So FSU's had so much happening. I'm taking Louisville minus 3.5 simply because I'm just fading FSU this week. Because of, like you said, that huge upset win last week against North Carolina.
Florida State's got to be riding a little too high, a little on cloud nine. They deserve to be knocked back to reality, probably. I think that Louisville minus 3.5 is a good pick. And 15 points to North Carolina State. I think that's just too high. I think that game's going to be closer. I expect it to be a really good game between two top 25 programs.
Yeah, NC State's been better than people expected this year, I think, and kind of cool that their starting linebacker, this kid Wilson, is Bryce Wilson on the Atlanta Braves' younger brother. So, athletes in that family.
Plenty of athletes in that family is absolutely right. Now, I'm staying in the ACC with my other picks as well, Brett. One that I'm taking just because it just left off the page at me is the over under in the Notre Dame Pittsburgh game of 43. Over 43 just makes sense. I mean, Pittsburgh has given up 30 points and 31 points in the past three games, lost all three of them. And then Notre Dame, they average giving up about 11 and a half, 12 points a game, but they let Florida State score 26. So I have a feeling that this will be a little higher scoring than that 43. I think 43 is just really low. Six touchdowns is really low. Notre Dame should win this one easily, I think, although I'm not going to touch the 10.5 point spread because it is in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh has a weird habit of being a lot more competitive in their home stadium against anybody in the ACC, really. So I think it'll be interesting. I think 43 just it was really really low, and it just spoke to me instantly.
Yeah, I agree 43 is low. What scares me is Notre Dame's score last week. Like I think the
12 to
total
7.
yeah, like so I'm staying far away from that one, but to your point, over 43 is definitely doable between those two teams. Just last week's results scared me too much, Higgins.
I understand that last week was 12 to 7, but it's an anomaly because if you look at the week before that, Notre Dame scored 42 points on their own in a 42 to 26 win over Florida State. The week before that, they won 52 to 0 against South Florida. So Notre Dame has the capability of covering this over on their own. They've already done it once in the past 3 weeks. So I think we will see a reinvigorated offense that had probably got their ass chewed out in the team meetings throughout the week about only putting up 12 points on the board.
Well, I hope so. But you're on one more game in the ACC, so let's jump to Virginia, Miami.
Yes, Virginia, Miami. Now this one, it smelled funny to me. Virginia's 1-3, Miami's ranked 11 and 4-1, and the line's only 12 and a half. Miami minus 12 and a half just feels right to me. I mean, they won last week by 12 against Pitt, so not quite a cover. Before that, they lost to Clemson, but they also would have covered against Florida State, Louisville, and UAB at this 12.5 point line. So they've played pretty well, 4-1. They're playing a bad, underperforming Virginia team that lost to Wake, NC State, and Clemson recently. It's gonna be 4 straight. Miami's gonna win. It's just by how much. I think it's gonna be 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, we'll see. UVA lost a lot of talent from a year ago, and that's obviously going to hurt them. So I agree with you. Miami's the better team here. 12 and a half in an ACC game when I'm not 100% sold on Miami like you was too much for me. But if you're a believer in Miami, you got to believe they can beat Virginia by 12 and a half. So I understand the logic there, Higgins.
Absolutely. So that's where I'm at, staying in the ACC with all of my picks on Saturday, but you're going to be heading outside the ACC.
Yeah, I'm hitting on most of the big conferences in action. I'm actually I didn't really see very many Big 12 lines that I liked. So, I'm only touching the ACC, the Big 10, and now the SEC. Uh Alabama and Tennessee, they're always a big rivalry game. But it hasn't really been a great rivalry game recently. Alabama blows out Tennessee every time they play, and I expect that trend to continue. It's only minus 20 and a half at the sports book. I saw it at Higgins. Now, there's a little added juice. It's minus 115 to keep that under 21, but I'm willing to eat those 5 cents for the half point in this one. And honestly, I really think this will be a 4 touchdown victory, but if I can get it at under 3 touchdowns, or 3 touchdowns plus 3 extra points, I'm going to be very happy with that and take that.
Yeah, that I saw that line. I was leaning towards Bama too. I mean, it makes sense. I think Bama's going to win by more than 3 touchdowns easy. I expected that line honestly to be up closer to about the 26 and a half, 27 mark of 4 touchdowns instead of 3.
Yeah, I definitely thought it would open up at around 24, and when I saw it was at honestly closer to 21, I was pretty happy. But I could see it getting bet up 2 or 3 points by Saturday, so you may want to get in on Bama early. They're like the Yankees, they're like the Lakers, they're like the Cowboys. Bama's definitely one of those teams that gets bet up a little quicker than others.
Now, you and I have preached, though, to make sure to get your bets in morning of because of the coronavirus uncertainties, and that has burnt you in one of our previous episodes. You just said maybe get in on it early because you could see some line movement. Are you going to get in on it early?
I think for Alabama, betting Alabama, it's a little different because it is such a heavily bet team across the United States that I might have to get this one in early Thursday morning here.
Might have to roll on up to the window, roll tide.
Roll tide on up to the window. Exactly.
There we go. All right, so we have an ACC, a Big Ten, and an SEC for Brett, and 3 ACC picks for me on Saturday.